So now we live, White Chalk Podcast. We got a very special guest. I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. And I always allow my guests to introduce themselves. There's no better introduction than a person introducing themselves. I'm gonna give you the floor.
No, you're right. Hello, my name is Allie. I do everything. I'm a host of my own podcast. I do interviews. That's my name's Allie. Thanks for having me on too. I appreciate it.
Okay. Your sound was going in and out a little bit too, by the way. So as I was checking out your podcast. I know we've been talking, trying to get this interview together. I had seen, I watched the episode where you were speaking about like just the effects, the traumatizing effects and the psychological effects that Instagram and these different social media sites, have on young folks. A lot of my podcast is based on inspiring and motivating young folks. So, can we get into that? Like you speak on some of those psychological effects that these social media has on young folks.
Yeah, no, we could talk about that. No, I do a lot of, well, if anybody doesn't know what he's referring to, I have deep dives and I interview models, and I am a model myself, and I I kind of, I don't know, I kind of, how it started kind of was just kind of being third person, kind of being out the box, just new into like social media and new into podcasting. And I started doing real deep dives into things that people don't really talk about, and things that people kind of do talk about kind of gets just like swept under the rug. And I started a deep dive episode with a few models that I know in my area and out my area and all over the world. Had them come on my podcast and to share their stories, and I had a realization at that moment in time before I even edited that podcast, like, oh wow, this, wait, I want to turn this into something completely different now. Because then I realized that it really wasn't just the modeling, it was really the social media, because the modeling doesn't really come unless the social media is available for people to show that, because the modeling is
Yes.
very different than it was back then. Now it's just like a whole different level of models, and you got kids who are wanting to, you know, look a specific way than,
Yes.
kids than I did during my times of being a kid.
Yeah, and as I was watching that episode, because me and my friends we talk about that a lot. It was like it becomes more about getting the picture, and everybody we do everything for the gram. It's not even you're not even living in the moment no more. And I seen that you had like cited statistic that said like it was a lot of suicides, especially when it came like the young woman.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot. I mean, I talked about it a lot more so in my second episode. That's where it kind of got a little more deeper.
Right.
Where I was kind of like, this is kind of like the social media form of it
Hmm.
and how deep it can get. And then I kind of wanted to, the second episode I got into, I kind of wanted to get a little darker. And that really does come with social media, does take full effect over people to where they get to a point where, social media could be a lot of different things, from bullying, online bullying, comparing yourself, not feeling like you're no you know you're not good enough and you don't meet an
Hmm.
expectation, because you're so, people see an image online and they think that's the blueprint and that's how to get it and how to do it, and I can never be that. And there's so many things, but yeah, there's a lot of statistics, of a lot of unfortunate suicides and a lot of other situations because of social media. And just social media is just a lot darker, and I feel like
Yes.
I kind of wanted to not only bring light on that, like, look, this is what it does, but I kind of wanted to kind of give like more of an insight, because I do have a younger audience as well, and I kind of wanted something to share that's kind of important, that I think, don't get wrapped up in the social media. It's so, you can do social media. It's okay to it's okay to be social. It's okay to do what you want to do. People are blowing up like that because of social media. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So but using it, just talking about the things that it's done when people let it fully take them and how to use it properly, and actually sharing real life stories. And I actually had interviewed, these models individually, and then put it into the podcast, so it's all in one. So then you're hearing all these stories on top of the analytics and the effects it takes on you when you know when you endless I've had so many people message me after listening to that, like, you know what, after listening to that episode, I honestly like took a second for myself and realized like
Yeah.
what I do healthy in social media and what I don't. And I myself was one of them. I used to be so caught up in social media that social
Yes.
media was kind of a whole thing. And I felt like that's why I was like, I would love to talk on this, in my podcast, and love to interview people. And that's when I started doing that. So yeah, because I was one of them, and I
Me
realized,
too.
oh, I had to stop at a certain point because I had a realization of, oh my gosh, like I am these people. This is me. I may not be 100% fully into that, but I started seeing what I was doing was kind of sharing what other people started and hearing people's stories of how they started. And then the modeling thing kind of got into it because you got models out there as well who have bad experiences. And modeling isn't just getting in front of a camera all the time. You get some weird people and you get some bad experiences, and you got to be careful out there because not everybody wants an opportunity for you.
Yeah, I seen you. I wanted to dive into that as well. I seen you speaking about the dark side of modeling, and we can dive into that. But I
Yeah.
tell my crowd, like people that follow the podcast, I always preach that you can either use social media, or you can allow social media to use you.
Yep.
So I tell young folks, you gotta. It's always important to make sure that you're using social media for the right reason, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
inspirational people. It's a lot of motivation on there, but you can also find whatever energy you're trying to attract, and you're gonna find that energy you're trying to attract. So I tell people, just don't allow it to use you, to use social media.
No, I agree. Yeah, I've had these conversations so many times with so many people who just randomly came across that episode, or just friends of mine that just talk about it all the time with me. And I'm just like, yep, I've had people who are like, who actually are like, yo, I think I can't get off the internet. Like how I see you talk about it all the time. Like, how do you balance this and this? And not realizing that other people find it hard to balance real life and social media at the same time, is kind of, seeing that and hearing that type of things, just more of a reason why I started deep diving and interviewing people from all over the world and kind of really touching some real stories on that. And I plan to continue doing that with
Yes,
my
I'm
platform.
tuning in. That's beautiful, and
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. It's something that we need to push for the young folks, that you don't got to be validated by social media, and everything is not always what it seems. Like, just because a
Right.
person seems to be living a certain way on social media, that might not be the truth. That might not be the reality. And a lot of
Right.
times we get caught up in not wanting to live in our reality. We get caught
Yeah.
up in, I want to be like, I see that they got couple goals, or I see that dude balling out of control, or they doing X, Y, and Z. We forget to stick to the principles and the morals of focusing on just being a better person than you was for yourself yesterday. We get so caught up in comparing and contrasting ourselves with these people, these dudes, and these people on social media, and I fall victim to it myself as well. But there's
Right. And
none.
that's why I was saying, like, I feel like that's why I connected so many people through that, because it's not only me sharing a story that, people kind of find it hard to talk about in certain things and completely openly admit about it, but like having somebody who completely has done that themselves, where they got too wrapped up, into it. And then, later on in the process, I remember one day just waking up like, what is this for? Like, what is everything you're doing this for? And I realized it really wasn't anything. It was just to more impress at the time. And that was when I was a lot younger. And now, as I've gotten older and I've now create and talk about these things, it's just kind of like, look, I was in your positions too. So if you're either listening to relate or listening to kind of have like a more open mind when it comes to clicking an app the next time you click it, then I'm glad I at least did something. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
That's yeah.
Yeah, you was breaking it down. That was a great episode. Can we dive into the dark side? I seen that was
Yeah.
also good. I seen you speaking about the dark side of modeling for all of the young ladies that's and
Yeah.
people that want to get into modeling in general.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, they're both kind of, I kind of like, wanted to not separate the two because they both are very hand in hand. Like I said, social media and I mean, modeling and everything that's kind of like your social media model, I would say, because you got your models who are like, your model, but like your Instagram, social media, your brand
Yeah, model.
ambassadors, the girls who are doing brand work, stuff like that.
Yes.
It goes all with it, but there comes like a point in time where I don't know, I feel like modeling, when I started becoming a lot closer with friends before I even started modeling myself, I started becoming a lot closer with friends, and I would hear stories and just situations, and people would be put in really awkward positions that I feel like and I mean, I still to this day, I mean, I follow a lot of models all over the world, and I'm always seeing a story of something, of a situation happening when it comes to modeling, and just women, when it could even be men as well. And I've seen both, honestly, where men have been been trying to model and get to that, I'm gonna reach to a photographer, I'm gonna try to get comfortable, and sometimes the situation doesn't really go the way in their plan, that goes the way in their plan. It could be uncomfortable. The photographer could be uncomfortable with the model, vice versa. Can some people, I mean, there's a huge thing on Netflix right now going on that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was talking about, but I think it's called Dancing with the Devil, and it's
Okay.
basically about these people who basically um it's people who get targeted who are vulnerable. It's really what it is. It's people who want an opportunity, the people who are willing to do anything right now, go fly, go travel, go do what they have to do just to get an opportunity, and just to get a fan base and to be seen on social media. And that's kind of I would say the same thing where it goes with modeling, which is a little different than TikTok, but it goes hand in hand because models are the same way. They want an opportunity. They want to get to a point where they can get in magazines. They can get to that high profile, and all these
Right.
women and men want opportunities, and people see that, and people don't always have the best interest. People don't always want to see you win too, and it could be that, it could be people are not trustworthy. You got to just be very careful, and I talk about that. I've also talked about modeling, Instagram, where analytics, where a lot of mental health made a lot of people's mental health basically decreased, to where suicide attempts were just going up because of social media. And there's a point in time where I talk about that same with modeling. There's multiple models that kind of just went where it was just too much, where it was too much. And there's so many different things. I could talk about it for hours, but
It,
you got, the mental health part of it. You got the physical look and the body image that, women want,
yeah.
do
You're
anything
right.
with it. You got the opportunity sitting right there, to your other side, like, I'll do anything to get that. So,
Yeah. So that's and you
yeah.
think so? Would you say that that's kind of when you got people that got this power? So you feel like the people that got this power, in many instances they abusing this power. They using this power. They know motherfuckers is willing to do whatever to get these opportunities. So they basically selling them a dream to get
Oh
what they
yeah.
want from a person. You
Yeah.
saying?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Because
that's deep.
I mean, there have been stories where I've heard where like people have been reached out for opportunities, and they got an opportunity like that, and they've never had issues. And then you have situations, sadly, unfortunately, like I said, there's so many things that comes to this, but you have trauma. When you look into it, there's a statistic that a lot of people who discover their trauma don't really discover it until they're an adult, and they're starting to have triggers. And and I'm not saying it's all the time, but a lot of adults will tend to realize, whoa, I didn't realize that what I was trying, what I was thinking was normal as a kid wasn't, and
Right.
there's kids, like, you know, because there's adults, you know, who go into modeling, and then you have kids who get
Okay, yeah, yeah,
thrown into modeling, and
yes,
you know what I'm saying, and
yes.
there's a fine line between that and just basically just being aware, no matter what age you are, no matter what opportunity comes to you, just to make sure you always have your parents there with you. If your parents, you know, if they have like a thing of like a no parents allowed, I always recommend don't go through with it. There's something
Mm-hmm.
not right with that.
Right.
No matter if they're talking about flying her out to Hollywood and a little Alyssa's gonna go into the hotel suites in Miami, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't.
Yeah,
You have to remember that they'll sell, like you said, they'll sell you a dream and they'll sell it to you, and sometimes it's not always um, a good one. It's not.
yeah, yeah. I be hearing a lot of stories. Yeah, I be seeing a lot of that stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is crazy. This is
And the why I say younger is because
yes.
if we look at it, like a lot of our younger audience now is being exposed way much earlier to like to social media. Like, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like, you know, there was a certain point in time where like you could just see the growth in like how with the age range, and I think Instagram even had to put a thing on their app where it was like, you know, if you're under a certain age, you're gonna have controls and limits on this app, you know. I think
Yeah,
they had something like that. um and so, you know, it kind of comes to a point in time where it's just like, oh my gosh, we got like
spiraling out of
4 year old,
control.
5 year olds, like you're asking what do
Yes.
you want to be, and they want to be a model, and their parents are like, okay, we'll do whatever we want to get you there, and we'll start you young. I was started young. I started modeling and baby gap. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a certain point of exposure that comes with children, regardless, in modeling, from young, old, or you could be an adult just starting in your 20s and your 30s. Yeah.
What would you say? What would you say your some one of your greatest moments is in your modeling career? What would you say?
Honestly, feeling um like I feel like when it comes to, for me at least, specifically for me, I make sure I work just because of everything I do on the side from modeling, like interviewing and hearing situations and knowing what really happens, you know. I'm
Hmm.
very aware, and I keep my circle very tight with who I do work with. So so I get to a point where I kind of feel this comfortable, where I can just like feel like, I could feel like a woman, and I feel good, and I feel empowered, and I feel like after I walk out of here, I feel embraced, and I feel good about myself. I feel like everybody that I've ever seen have like walk out and like really have a good experience. The way that they're glowing, a way that confidence comes with that person, without like, they just like, it's kind of like a self reminder. Like, you go in, I've seen people go in and come out like, yeah, I'm me again. Like, I feel good again. And I'm like, you know, I just feel like
Hmm.
not just that, but you can also get creative with it. You know, modeling isn't just about, you know, I always try to enforce that too. Like, don't be afraid to get creative. Like, I feel like that's what brings out the coolest things in modeling, is bringing out different things and trying it out and seeing what works for you and what doesn't, and getting creative and having fun with it, you know, because that's what I feel like, that's what it's meant to be, you know. Embracing beauty and embracing, you know, and empowering who you are regardless. When you go behind a camera, you're embracing who you are, and when you look at that image, when you look at that, you're like, that's me, you know. Yes, like,
Right.
you know, that's a good feeling. I feel like everybody I've gotten, I feel like that's the best thing ever, would be all those things.
Right. So my next question, I got to talk some motivation, inspiration.
Oh
So
yeah.
when you were on a come up before you was in position where you was getting booked constantly, can you give some advice to people on who may be trying to look in that field, and how did you stay motivated when things wasn't going the way that you thought it was? You had doubts like this is my career, this is gonna be my career. How did you stay motivated through the
Right.
times that was slow when you wasn't getting booked all the time in interviews and you wasn't where you at now in your career? How did you
Right.
keep pushing through that?
I mean, there was a I mean, my whole life, just growing up, I've always been told, like, model, model, model. What are you doing? Model. Why aren't you a model? I'll walk into a restaurant and someone's like, I don't mean to bother you, but you should model. And I'm like, oh my god, it's like finally got to a point where I'm like, I'm gonna try this. Let's do it. Let's whatever. And I realized that I had a good time with it. And when I like kind of more dip my feet in, I would say for the first thing you said was that for people who want to get into it, I would say go ahead and explore first. I would say look into who you're what I did personally was I befriended a lot of models. I became real close with one model, and me and her ended up like this. And I remember coming to her a few times like, hey, is this person, good, or have you ever had bad experiences? Because she has worked with everyone all everywhere, all over the states. And I always ask, like, if we're mutuals, like, is this person cool, whatever. And I kind of get connects that way. And she's like, yeah, they're cool, like, I would work with them, and so I'll go ahead and like their photos, and I'll go ahead and reach out to them and be like, I would love to work, and I'm never be afraid to reach out, because you never know if that person wants a creative too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
man, I need a new model. I want a new vibe. I want to try something new. And you never know, you could be that person, because I've
Yeah,
been that person for
that's
a lot of,
big.
yeah.
Right, that's big.
Right. And you gotta have confidence that, like, and if they say no, I've told my friends who've even asked me, girl, how do you do all these things? Like, just ask. Just ask.
Mm-hmm.
Approach. Just approach. Hey, look, I would love to try something new. I'd love to try something creative. If you ever need something, just approach with however you would approach them. And
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10, that person will hit you back with, let's work, or here are my rates, or what do you want to work with? Let's talk. Let's lock in. And, don't be afraid to work around and look around and do that. My second thing is for when I didn't have like people, because there are times where, like, um when I'm more towards in the winter, if I'm out in the area where it's like snowing really bad, I'll
Mm-hmm.
try not to travel, so I'll stay back. And that's when I do my own thing. I do my podcast. I interview people from all over the world. I run two podcasts actually, but I my main one is the one that I have posted. My other one is for just like my smaller fan base that's been asking for a second one for the longest time, and I finally made one. So,
Okay.
but yeah, no. So, but I really, I run a lot of things, and then not just that, but then I'll go ahead and find inspiration on what I can do next. Like, okay, I started getting on TikTok and started doing that. I remember I started getting online on YouTube here and started talking with people, like, about cases that don't get talked about, like
Mm-hmm.
unsolved cases, and really getting into. So I'm a huge analytics person, statistic person, and
Yeah.
started bringing exposure to that. Like, I'll always try to just find a way where I can involve myself in just like kind of spreading a message, but not just that, but like being able to show other people, like, hey, if I can do this, you can do this too.
Yes.
Kind of to make this a thing. And like how you said a while when we first started this, like earlier, when you said, crap, I don't want to forget what you were saying, but basically that I don't know, I just got everybody on mine, and just trying to remember what you said. You said something that stuck in my head, but I just lost it. But I don't know, I just basically I stick to doing what I want to do, and just kind of oh, there you go, using your platform kind of for a message, and like doing it for a purpose, and
Right.
I've kind of been sticking to that. So if I can't, modeling is just something that I like to do for a creative side. That's something I want to, show a fun side of me, but not just that, but more of a professional. There's something professional about camera quality to me. I don't know. When I
Mm-hmm.
see a professional pic here and there, it's just like, okay, like you can give both. Like you can I
Mm-hmm.
can give, I have something there. And I also, I do that really because I do a lot of magazine work. I do a lot of brand work on the side. It's kind of, when I do a shoot, it's kind of like everything I'm wearing is for different brands that I'm working for, and
Right.
doing. So everything I'm doing, I'm like, I make sure I'm doing for a purpose, and there's something that's, I'm doing a photo shoot for a smaller brand that needs some photos, and he doesn't have much exposure, and I'm like, you know what, I got you. I got a shoot coming up anyways. Send me
Mm-hmm.
fits. I'll add it into the fits, or to the outfit, and you can use it for your site. I just do little things like that.
That's dope.
But yeah, so if it's not modeling, it's interviewing. If it's not interviewing, and it's not modeling, if it's not either of those, it's always me trying to get involved, like what I'm doing right here, like just trying to get involved and just talk
Yeah,
to different
that's
people. Yeah,
that's dope. When we had put the and I want to say because a lot of people that I know they they have pride and they be a little worried about reaching out, but that's how you, like you said, you won't know if you're gonna miss an opportunity. Sometimes you gotta take the initiative and reach out and see if this person might really want to work with you. They might, how we connected. Like I don't
yeah,
mind reaching out, and you might hear a thousand no's, but that one yes might open a door that you might need. So
for real.
young folks, you can't be afraid and you can't have pride to where you don't reach out and ask. And you gonna hear no. I don't heard no so many times, but it's okay. Just
Yeah,
keep going, keep doing, putting the work in, keep you know perfecting your craft, and keep going. But you got to take chances, and you got to ask questions. You got to network. That's
you
the big
have to.
thing. You
You
have
have
to
to.
network.
And shout out Cherise Mills because she was my first yes ever.
Okay.
She was my first. I don't know if she's a huge artist. She's huge on TV platforms, music. Works with French Montana. She's very big in everything, and that's kind of something that it's kind of like me, where it's kind of like I like to be involved with everything. Just we're in two different. It's just two different things, and I always look up to people who start from the bottom up,
Mm-hmm.
and that I've watched her personally start, where I've seen her a little bit on TV, a little bit here with music, a little bit here, and then all of a sudden, she becomes Cherise Mills, bad and bougie, and yeah, I remember I reached out to a few celebrities, and I've gotten a few. I'll let you know. We'll let you know. We'll see. Da, 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 or just left unseen. And it's okay. And that's where I was like, I remember I got to a point where I sat here with myself, and I'm like, okay, we're either gonna keep trying or we're not gonna do this anymore, because we're either gonna embarrass ourselves. And I wouldn't like, and it wasn't anything like spamming where I was messaging like 50,000 people. It was kind of like I'll
Mm-hmm.
like, if I'll come across a post and I'll see a person and I'm like, you know what, I would love to interview that, and then I'll go ahead and reach out to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I reached out to her, and she was my first guest. And after that, it kind of like that's when my podcast just kind of like I just
Took off.
yeah, it took off. Not only did it just take off, but I got the confidence of, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I am capable of a lot more than what I think I am. And like what you said, and from bouncing off from what I said of like you can literally get everything that I have that has grown me was because I took that like fear out of question,
Yes.
and I just approached and I asked and I put my, and I figure it out. And sometimes you're going to get answers, and sometimes you'll get, a little different route of, you could
Uh-huh.
try this person, you could try this. But yeah, no. And that's with everything I do. If that's interviews, if that's modeling, if that's, like you said, with us networking, I feel like that's for everybody. So anybody who is listening, don't be afraid to go ahead. And I know this sounds so cliche because I used to hear people on TV all the time be like, don't be afraid, chase your dreams. And I'm like,
No,
okay,
for real.
then done. But you really got to you really have to do it. Like, you really have to do it. Once I started doing that, everything kind of like, and I'm not saying everything will fall in your lap and everything is going to work out. You're going to get trial and errors, and you're going to live and you're going to learn through the things that you do, but you're still going to end up getting an outcome. Just you're going to experience a lot of different things when you do put yourself in like positions like that you're not, used to. So
Right. How do you deal with dream killers, with people who don't believe in you when you got a certain vision, and you focus on that, and you got friends or associates, or even sometimes family members who, because they feel like they can't do it, they might try to stir you to do something different. Or, I don't think you should do that, girl. Or how do you deal with the
oh
dream killers?
um honestly, I don't know. I just kind of like, since the moment I was little, I always had this thing of when I do something, it's going, even if it doesn't come out fully my way, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna get
Right.
it done. I'm gonna do it. I've done it where I've had no one on my team. Like, I mean, just to kind of compare, like, I started at a little park outside of where I lived when I was super little, and I would sit there with a stick. Like I have people who could rep these situations where I would sit there and talk to them, like, and just like, and they would be the celebrity and I would be the interview. It was just like weird. And
Mm-hmm.
people, I remember when the more and more I got older, then I started doing radio stations. Once I got into my teen years, I was like, oh, I was working a job, and a radio station came by and they were walking by, and I don't know why, but I had a thing in my head where it's like, this is my next opportunity, and I'm gonna get it
Right.
right here. So then they were walking back in, and I just kind of, and everybody was looking at me in my job like, you're not about to do this for them. It was like they were reporting something about the town just in our restaurant, and like it had
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do, like our restaurant was a little bit of the news, but they were just kind of using our restaurant just to have a set basically. And
Mm-hmm.
they were trying to get someone to interview, and they're going all around and nobody would want, and I was like, hello.
Okay.
Then I started doing that repetitively for them for a few years. They had me on their radio show. I started doing stuff for them, multiple 104.5 Kiss FM, or not Kiss FM, oh my gosh, 104.5 the the rock station. Oh my gosh, it was something because they changed their name 3 times. But I still email them to this day, and that was kind of when I started doing everything, and everyone thought I was weird for it. Everyone would bring me down for it, and I kept going and I kept going and I kept going. And it's kind of something that's kind of like when you have a goal and when you have a vision and when you have a dream, nobody, people can, yeah, people have tried knocking me down and telling me, girl, what are you doing? I think you, oh, you did not do the best when you came off that station. I know I didn't, and you can't, you got to keep trying, you got to keep doing it,
Right.
get better. And I'd still
Right.
get people who are like, okay, whatever. And now,
Mm-hmm.
flashback to now, I mean,
Now I'm here. What's up?
I'm over here interviewing, I mean, your favorite artists, your
Mm-hmm.
favorite people you watch on TV every day. And and it's something that I stay humble about for every day too, because all those people who I remember didn't have faith in me and would always, are now the ones who are following me and seeing my journey, and they're rooting me on, and they say, you're going so far, you're doing so good, I'm so. And
Yeah.
those be the same people that really be trying to
Doubting you.
become like your friend and be like, I'm supportive now.
They
So
was dream
I feel,
killers.
and I feel like that should be for anybody when you're young, small, older, whatever. You
Mm-hmm.
have dreams. I've seen, I have this line, I don't know when I remembered, but like there's these multiple people who've been told no in their life. Like Oprah has been told she can never have a talk show. Like they told her she could never have a talk show. Michael Jordan was told he wasn't tall enough for basketball when he was younger. Ariana Grande was told she was not a good singer in choir. Like
Right.
people were told no so many times in their lives that like they obviously, if they listened, they would have been staying into where they were at and just being the
Right.
watchers. And
Mm-hmm.
they decided to keep going and to keep trying to keep and surround. I feel like one last thing to add is surrounding yourself also with people who support your vision. Even though you might have people who don't, that means you need to get those
Change your
squares out of your
circle.
circle and go
Yes.
ahead and get yourself some new friends, reevaluate who's around you, and if they don't support you and if they're not with you in your vision, I feel like those people at the end of the day, are they going to be worth it than being when you're actually where you want to be? Probably not.
No. No, you're
So
right.
so it's a good mix of everything. It's a good mix of your own mindset and making sure that you keep the right mindsets around you too at the same time.
Yes. They can push you forward. I agree with that. It's okay for people to have, different opinions, but we're not about to be dream killers here. I don't
Yeah.
I'm not supporting that. Somebody
Yeah.
had asked, how did you start podcasting? What made you want to, start your podcast, and how did you start? And what's some tools? I got a podcast as well, so we both could. I'll let you go first, and I'll answer. What's
Yeah.
some what's some strategies and tactics that they can use to start if they want to start a podcast to be successful?
Oh yeah. What well I'm gonna give you know what I did, and then versus what anybody can do, which is just basically starting. Go ahead on YouTube, go ahead on wherever. You can find different things, but what I always try to say is like kind of stick with your one platform, and then once you get familiar with that, then start spreading your wings. And that's what I did with my podcast. I chose to start off with Spotify.
Okay.
Went ahead, looked up Spotify podcasting. And from there, I went on the website. I read everything top to bottom. Like, how do I do this? This was when COVID started. So
Mm-hmm.
put yourself in a time when COVID just hit. Everybody's inside. Nobody's wanting to do. And I remember I was like, you know what? Like I don't know where it came from, honestly. It just was I have my friend Ara that I she comes on and off now, but I started with her. She was my friend, and I would be like, hey girl, like join this link from Spotify. Like it was like a little Spotify link, and she would join it, and I was on a real crappy laptop because at the time my phone speaker didn't work. I really did
Mm-hmm.
everything. I was sitting in the hallway of my freaking apartment. I did
Mm-hmm.
everything to try to get my first episode, and I
Yeah.
did. I got my first episode, and we all filmed it. Also, my friend Chanel, she had came onto it. My friend Kevy, he came onto it, and we all kind of came together, like all of us at once. And all of a sudden, I think I started doing that like for like 10 episodes where I would just interview friends, have conversations, talk about some. My goal and my purpose was always to talk about things that people don't talk about, and to at
Right.
least inspire somebody, give a fact so people can leave with some form of knowledge and somewhere something that where can be like a form of piece of advice. So when,
Right.
so we would get callers to come on, and ask advice, and we would give advice, or we'd get emails because people didn't want to come on, and they're nervous to come on, and I'd so get it. So yeah, we started that way, and then I stopped. Shockingly, I gave up on it. I gave up on it after a year. I looked at this, and I'm like, I remember looking at my friend, and she really didn't care at the time. I didn't really care at the time, and I just stopped.
what
And
what made you stop? You was discouraged?
no, I don't think it was that. I think it was more so of a at the time I was trying to find something that would like that gave me more. I'm like, okay, I love podcasts, I love this, but it's like it wasn't enough, and in a way I kind of like that it happened because then I came back like a whole different way. So I find it funny, but I did a podcast, and I don't know how, what, when. I never put an ad out for it. I didn't even know about it. I had no idea. I just remember I stopped, and I was like, you know what? I'm not more discouraged. It's just more so of like after a while when you kind of don't see like people like engaged, it's kind of like I wasn't like, ugh, now I don't care. It was just more of a like, I want to do this, and people are actually listening to our what we have to say. Like I was so
Right.
passionate on what our stories were about to be on and what we were talking about. Nobody was
We're
investing in it.
getting the support, right?
Yeah, so it wasn't that I'm like, I just want that one person. Like that's all I want. I'm like, I just want
Mm-hmm.
that one person. I'm giving all this, and I kind of that.
Information is
So then I
value.
found other ways. I was like, I'm like, I'm gonna pause. I'm stop this. I'm done. I started just doing lives on Instagram with my friends, and we just started going just to Instagram live, and we just, and then I realized like, like I wonder like, how our podcast is doing. Let me go and check. This was like a year and a half later after me quitting. Like I was just like, I moved to a whole new place, whole new city, whole new area. I looked, and I get an email that's like, congratulations, you reached 10K. And I'm like, this is a lie. And I click it, and I click it, and I don't, this is obviously because during this time I really had no, I still had, I wouldn't say a purpose, but I was still chasing my purpose, chasing what I
Right.
was trying to do. I'm like, how can I get my voice out there? I'm tired of going on Instagram live. I don't want to sit down with my phone, and just sit there and be like, hi guys, on TikTok. So today I want to get interactive. I want to talk with people. I want to have like, I just got so upset. Finally go one day onto my email, and I got 10K, and I was like, what? And it made me do this whole login thing. I called up my friend who started with me at the time. I'm like, girl, like, can I send this to you, and can you do your deep diving into it and tell me if this is legit? And she's like, she did the whole thing and logged into my thing and everything for me, and she's like, you got 10K, because we added up. I didn't know, but when I left it, it was just going. It was
Yeah.
just going. It was just going. And it was because when I was putting in the caption, they had a feature at the time where you could put hashtags of topics. So
Uh-huh.
news, what we're talking about, tattoos, because I've had people, the girl who I interviewed was a huge tattoo artist at the time. So I would tag her name into it because her name would always be good in Google. So,
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to get that
You've
SEO
been
up.
creative. Yeah, you're trying to get an algorithm.
And so I left it though. I left it without nothing, and I came back, and I'm this one has 300. This one has 900. I'm like, we're
10K.
counting it on and I'm like on the phone with her. I'm like, girl, this is really happening. And I remember I posted it on my Instagram, and I was like, hey guys. By the way, I didn't realize that all you guys have been listening to my podcast, and I got a really good feedback. I got really good feedback from posting that. I had a lot of people, and I was like, okay, you know what? I need to relaunch another season. And that's what I'm going to
Okay.
call this. I'm like, that's what I'm going to call this. I'm like, that was my season 1. We're going to do a season 2, and it's on my Instagram. I did a whole freaking thing about it where I introduced that I was gonna do celebrity interviews, and a lot of people were shocked, and a lot of people at that time DM me like, because I was putting who was gonna be in my podcast for that season, and I didn't put everybody. I just kind of put a few people, and a lot of people started being like, whoa, like, okay, this is kind of serious. And that's when I started getting a lot of people who were like, I'm listening, I'm tuning in, I'm tuning in. That was when other opportunities came in with, we want you to model for us for this. We want you to do this for us.
Yeah.
You just did a whole thing on this, and now this and this and this. And, I ended up um, be, being in news articles from I was in Australia's podcast number 17.
Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah, and we're still in the 17 title for entertainment news, so congratulations to us. But
Congratulations.
yeah, no, so and it's really truly about building it through social media, which I had no idea, which was in my first season type. I was just doing it and posting it on my story and hoping everybody would see it. No, like, I started taking it real seriously. I started locking down on the name, locking down on getting everything mine, getting everything good, and really branding it, and making sure I do what I want to do, which is telling people stories and, talking about things that people really don't talk about, which is some real deep things. And, one of them I've done deep, like one of them are the modeling in the Instagram, but I have a lot of other ones too that are more deep dives. I have interviews where I've heard stories from people couch hopping to becoming millionaires. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
there's something about that. And it's not about that. It's just kind of like how somebody gets, how we all start the same way. We all start with nothing with our goal, and we kind of build it. And to see people who've actually put in that work and do that, and every single question, every single time I've asked the question of how you've gotten there, it's really, you got to put in that work, and it's networking, honestly, networking
Yeah.
and putting in the work. And once you put those two combined, and you keep going, you keep going, keep going, and you're also not afraid of doing your goals on top of it. I've seen people skyrocket in their career overnight by that, honestly.
Right. So, um, you know, Rick Ross got a quote, like a video I posted on our page. Sometimes I do reposts for, motivational reasons. And I wanted to ask you. He said it takes 10 years to build a brand. How long do you think it takes? Or it took you to build your brand? How long, should people, invest into a brand, and what's some of the things it takes to build a brand?
I mean, I think every, at least from what I know, from even that exact question, like, I've actually tried to, you know, seek into other people as well, which is how, you know, how long it takes for you to get to where you want to get. And I feel like somebody's brand, first off, starts with obviously an idea. And once it starts with that, I feel like from there you have a brand, and you're manifesting it, and you're getting into it, and you'll get people where I've seen where they have change their name so many times where it's like they got a brand and they're finally rebranding it. It does take a long time. I do feel like it's taken me, I would say, like, well, I've always known what I wanted to do, but for my actual branding and my personal brand, it's honestly taken me a lot of trial and errors and a very long time. And honestly, I feel like the longer you do take on something, though, I feel like it builds a lot better. You know what I'm saying? You take longer on building a house, it's probably going to be more stable
Mm-hmm.
than a house that you, I'm trying to rush and I'm trying to get done. I'm trying to get to the point. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right,
So,
right.
you know what I feel like that's the same thing with the brand, your businesses, your goal, your personal, brand and who you are and whatever and what you're trying to get to. I feel like is something someone always going to work on. And because once the house is done, you're still gonna need work on the house. You're still gonna need upkeep on it. You're still gonna need to fix some things around, the corner and see what works for things and what don't. We also tend to forget that our generation is constantly growing to where no matter what brand you run, you're going to want to make sure you're growing with that audience as well. And
Yeah, you grow. Yes,
yeah, and you're,
you
and
changing with the
really,
times.
yeah, you have to. So I feel like your brand will always be growing constantly because, look at musicians. I've seen artists start from like one genre and their genre constantly is growing, changing, staying the same, but like you want to make sure you're staying with that target audience and what they want to see, what they want to hear, the
Yes,
mindsets. People are so used to things being quick now, so people like watching quicker videos. Quick people like to hear. So for me to try to get people to sit and listen to a podcast has been a lot harder than going ahead
yeah,
and like watch this 30-second clip of me just sitting here talking real quick. You know what I'm saying? So but for me to have mastered that, I think is honestly, it's really cool. And my advice also, I'm not going to forget the answer to this question, but my advice for people who do want to start a podcast and like how to exactly start is just really find your niche, what you want to talk about.
yes,
Find what you want to talk about first of all. Before you want to get on the mic and talk about something, don't want just want to do funny stuff. Or I'm just sitting here and talking to you guys. So I know somebody from my school who does I think they do. I've seen like slightly seen like that they do like a football review thing. So and they get apparently a lot of views out, and go good because you got people out there who want to listen to that. So
mm-hmm.
you got to find your niche, what people want to listen to and what people want to hear. And not only that, but what's something you can talk about.
Yes,
That you want to talk about. What's your
with
purpose?
confidence. Right.
Yeah, like what is going to be the purpose of this as well, so then you're not sitting there like 2 weeks into it like, what am I getting out of this? You're not going to question yourself because you already know this is what my goal is, this is my purpose, and I just got to grow it. That's really what it is.
Yes,
Yeah, so I just feel like that, getting your target audience, don't be afraid to share your stuff on social media. Don't be afraid to share it to your friends. If those people don't trust me, most of my fan base are people that I've never even met, like people
yes. I
who,
say the same thing. I tell my friend that all the time that strangers
so
be like family. Man, my own family sometimes they support me.
yeah, you really got to build it. You really got to, yeah, just like, and don't be afraid to network. Don't be afraid to message people. Don't be afraid to reach out if you see somebody else doing exactly what you want to do. Do you know how many times I've reached out to so many people who have had podcasts before I even started a podcast and be like, how did you start this? How did you do this? People sometimes didn't help, and some people actually did and referred me to a really good places and really good, things. So never be afraid, and don't be, like you said, like, don't, you're gonna get no's. You're gonna get people who are like, oh, I don't want to do this, and people may not see your vision, but if you do, that's all that matters. Get your niche and start doing what you want to do. And if that's podcasting, if that's interviews, if that's video podcasting, there's so many different forms of podcasting that are out there right now. So there's so many things you can do, and you never know, you just might create a fan base.
Yes, and I also feel to add when it comes to making podcasts, I'm gonna speak about the fundamentals because I seen when I first started, like I wasn't taking the quality of this of podcasting serious. So when you want everything to be high quality, people can take you serious. You need the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have good, entertaining,
Little mic.
aesthetically pleasing content. The mic, everything. So I think all these little things that we take for granted, the more you know network and you interact with people that's running successful podcasts,
Yep.
you understand like okay, the picture, the
Yeah.
audio, all these things play a role in why a person's podcast to go through the roof, and
Yeah.
you gotta understand all that. You don't want to do nothing low budget. That was my biggest thing when I first started. I used to do things low budget. I wasn't getting the views, and I'm like, what was? Then I said, you know what? I'm going all in. I'm gonna do a podcast. I'm about to give me a state of the art facility. I'm gonna shoot these podcasts with a. I'm gonna give me a videographer. So I think you can't be scared to invest in yourself neither. If you
No.
feel like this is what you want to do, you gotta invest.
Yep. And you know, and once you go from there, you can do that. And that's really with anything, not even just podcasting, like modeling,
Yes.
everything. There are people who are very successful. I'm not here to knock anything, but there are very successful, and I'm friends with a lot of them. A lot of people who are very successful, all just being on Instagram and just posting and having a good following, and then having a good view count, and and when I say successful, like that's their job. Like their job is to go on Instagram, make their content, make their reels, make their videos, same as TikTokers. So I'm never knocking that. I just feel like when people do it the right way, you network, you get the right people, you start. And one the last thing I would say is consistency. You may not see it at first, but the more and more you do it, the more and more people see, oh wow, okay, this is what this
Hmm.
person does, because
Yes.
you see this person doing it consistently, and that's
You gonna respect that. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I
you
respect
know.
it. Especially if
And
it's good.
yeah, and I feel like consistency will not only show to others, but show to yourself too, that
Yes.
working hard and never giving up and not listening to all those people who want to see you, staying in your room all day, and not being happy with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't
Right.
know. I don't know. It's gonna just tell yourself like that you really just keep going, and you can really reach to any success that you really want to really get to if you just really put your mind to it. How to do it? How am I gonna get there? What am I gonna do to get there? And start doing it, and putting your mind to it, and you'll go from there. I feel like it's like a snowball effect.
Right. And I know you're very busy and it's just 3 o'clock. So my final question
No, it's
that I
okay.
want to ask you, um, do you feel like loyalty? And I want you to drop a jewel for all the young, for they all gonna be watching this podcast. I'm gonna clip it up and put it on Instagram.
Okay,
Is
this is cool.
loyalty a liability?
Wait, what was the question? Sorry, you cut out.
Do you feel like loyalty is a liability, or can loyalty be a liability?
I feel like it is. I feel like, yeah, somebody definitely needs to be, but you need to be held reliable for definitely being loyal. I feel like, regardless, I feel like gives more respect to people who put their trust and loyalty into you.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like those people at the end of the day, I think would respect that a lot more, just kind of coming forward and just being like, I haven't been trustworthy, I haven't been loyal, and I feel like everybody has to admit at one point that you you have to admit to your mistakes. I feel like we're
Yes.
human. You have to admit to. I feel like just like that line right there, just like being human and just admitting
Mm-hmm.
your ex,
And being
and
held
not just
accountable. Nothing wrong with
not
taking
just that.
accountability.
Yeah, right. And not just that, but I would say like admitting to yourself too of like, dang, I didn't like how I made this person feel. I didn't like
Yeah.
how it made me feel. Now I
Mm-hmm.
know that I'm just not gonna put myself in a position again, and however I made this person feel, and however I did whatever to make somebody feel like I was the opposite of loyal, then you start learning to be liable. Like, okay, now I have to take these things and start
Yeah.
taking accountability. But it's
Yes.
like that comes with growth, that comes with time, that comes with situations and events, and just as
Yes,
time
you
goes.
do. You do. That's true. Come with growth. That's a fact. So we can close out on that. If you got any closing words, I want all of y'all to go, follow her Instagram and follow her podcast and tune in. The people that's gonna watch this on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, go support my special guest. I'm sorry. And you have any closing words?
Yeah, I do. First, I want to say thank you for having me come on. I appreciate sitting here and um, talking and basically reaching different levels of being open and discussing on things that like how you mentioned, like the modeling and the deep dark side of things like that, and kind of getting on more about that, and really making sure that the message gets heard, and I feel
Right.
like that's what your podcast does. So I love that your podcast spreads the message and spreads the word. So I appreciate you letting me come on here and spread mine. And everybody, make sure to go and subscribe, follow on
Yes.
Instagram, follow on. Are you guys like everywhere? Follow
Yeah,
everything.
we on to everywhere. TikTok,
Yeah.
YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We everywhere.
Yep. So follow, like, subscribe, and I just want to say to your viewers and my viewers who are watching, thank you guys for supporting. That you can always do whatever you put your mind to. You can honestly do everything just by just doing it and not listening to anybody who's around you. It's a lot easier said than done to do that. Trust me.
Yes.
It takes
Yes.
it takes a lot of strength, mental strength, and just emotional strength to just kind of get through that stuff. But you can really honestly do anything you put your mind to. And if you have any questions for me, you can feel free to message me on Instagram, Alimia with an X at the end, ALIMIAX. And yeah, and if you ever want to check out my podcast, because I do want to have you eventually on my podcast whenever
Yes.
you're free, so we can talk a little bit more about other things. We could talk about everything on there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so stay tuned for my podcast, which is Ali Mia Unfiltered. I'm on Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio. I'm on all platforms. I'm on all listening platforms.
I'm gonna put it in the comments too. So when I post the video, y'all be able to see the
Yeah,
platform.
yeah. So you guys can go ahead and check me out there, and yeah, and you'll be seeing more from us soon on my podcast. And thanks for
Okay.
having me on.
Yes. Thank you. You have a
Yeah,
great
of
day.
course. Thank you. I appreciate it.